here in New Mexico with Susan and Steve, and they are the founders of a company called Max+Jane, which is a new product line for me that I have not tried yet. So I thought it would be a great idea to introduce the company, more so for myself, but also to you all, and talk about the history of the company. Then we'll move into some of the top ingredients that I wanted to touch on, and then finalize everything and finish up with looking at the different age groups that we're focused on and as they tie into the products. So, Susan.
Hello.
Thank you for being with us today and introducing your company. I guess the first question that I have for you, where does the name Max+Jane come from?
Oh, we've heard that question before. So we are Susan Nichols and Stephen Garrettson. I formulated in the herbal industry for a long time, and Steve had an East Coast 35-year company doing solar and renewable energy. But we got together in what was our first retirement and began a farm up here in the Red Rocks in New Mexico, and wanted to farm sustainably, organically, live that lifestyle, and so on. So eventually our scientist's daughter, she's a physicist, and she informed us, and she's usually correct when she informs us of things, that we were a little too old to be considering starting this, for one thing.
Oh.
And ruining our skin, she was actually correct, that the skin and wind and dirt and so on, as we did the build out on the farm and dug the ponds and so on, it's very hard on us.
Yes.
And so I actually started buying product from all over the place, from France, everywhere, and couldn't find the product we needed. So as a master herbalist, and because I had formulated for decades in the nutraceutical industry, I knew what we wanted, and whether I paid a low price for something or an extraordinarily high price, we didn't get products that performed. So we made skin nutrient. And it turned out friends and family wanted it, lots of people wanted it, and it was the birth, actually, of Max+Jane. So then we had to come up with a name for the company. So we hired a professional to do this, and the professional told us, well, make a list of like 20 to 30 names that you would consider and put them in order. And she had people who were our target market group come and give commentary on them. So we had about 30, mostly women, sitting in a circle. And every name that we had labored over for weeks or months, somebody had something negative to say about it. Oh. So that wasn't great, like every name. Right. So at the end of the time frame, she said, right now, off the top of your head, give me another name that just has nothing but good connotations to you. And we're like, we can't, I don't know if we can. We spent so long coming up with this list. But we had nothing to do but use our nicknames for each other, which my nickname, Max has always called me Janie. And his last wife was actually Susan Garrettson, so I had told him I would never be Susan Garrettson, and so he started calling me Janie in the beginning of our relationship. And then because I had a nickname, I asked him if he wanted one, and he said I always wanted to be Max, and so I called him Max. This was actually unknown to even our children; only the two of us knew it.
Wow.
But at that moment, with the facilitator there, we had nothing else to do but throw in Max+Jane. And the name went around the circle, and everyone had something positive to say about it. Our friends said, Max could be Maxine, and the older people said it was memorable and like not a flash in the pan. Just nothing but positive comments, all the way around the group. And so she just looked at us from across the room and raised her eyebrows like, well, that's it. There's your name.
Max+Jane.
And so that's how we became Max+Jane.
Oh, that's a great story. Thank you. And how long has the company been in business?
We're in our beginning of our 7th year.
7th year.
Mm-hmm.
And are your products primarily internet-based or available?
Oh, we're about half and half. Income-wise, we're probably half and half, which means that there's twice as much product out there in wholesale or retail. Okay. And, like La Montanita co-ops here support us, and the green living kind of people in this 4-state area. But same on the East Coast and West Coast, San Francisco, New York, Connecticut.
Okay.
So we have a lot of wholesale accounts, and we have a lot of reorder online.
Okay. Okay, great. So for those of you who are ready to start shopping, available product. The next thing that I wanted to jump into, as I mentioned earlier, are the ingredients. As you know, I talk about ingredients just about in every video. So as it relates to Max+Jane, there are a few ingredients that I know that I wanted to touch on. CBD oil is one, and then sea buckthorn. So kind of starting with CBD oil and the benefits that it provides for us from a skin standpoint. So
okay, so CBD is a huge issue. I mean, there's a lot of new Google search on what is CBD and is it psychoactive and so on, but it's kind of two different strains, one coming from the hemp world, which hemp is an almost perfect oil for the human body to consume. So for many years, it was they tried to have it in the health food store industry, but people weren't aware of what it was, or they were afraid it was related to marijuana, and it just didn't sell in time, and so no one made money, and so it went back out. But the blend of oils in hemp, the 369, is fairly ideal for what the human body needs to consume. But then the properties also for skin are pretty phenomenal.
Right.
So cannabinoids, CBD, it's an amazing product that is entirely non-psychoactive. So THC is the strain that is psychoactive and is legal in some states, and I think 18 or 19 right now, and not in the rest. CBD is actually legal in every state, and we decided, although we had come up to 9 products in our line over those years, we wanted to do CBD products for very specific reasons. I have a lot of friends who are in the functional medicine world, and they've been, priming me for a couple of years on all the receptor sites for cannabinoids that exist within the human body. So basically, CBD, there is an endocannabinoid receptor site in every cell in your body. So whether it's blood or bone or hormones or whatever, it's like our body was primed to receive these products, and yet they hadn't really fared well in the marketplace, so most people weren't receiving them. But for skincare particularly, those receptor sites are right underneath, in dermis and epidermis. I mean, it's amazing how those receptor sites are just there ready to pick up and receive the benefits of anti-inflammatory, anti-redness, and so on. There's one more very specific thing that I like because we're older. But we have people interested in anti-aging from 20 and 30
Absolutely.
on. I mean, this is an all age and both male and female product line.
Right.
Even children use a lot of our products. So the interesting thing about cannabinoids and the messaging system, so there's metabolic enzymes that we produce in the human body that are basically like what sends a little message to an organ or through blood or to somewhere saying, I need this, I have too much of this needs to be changed. So those receptor sites, the cannabinoids really enhance that production. And in the skin, you're very well educated in the skin field area. You know that the epidermis, the outer layer, is mostly dead skin cells, right? Which we have to slough off, which we have a tourmaline exfoliant for and so on. But the deal as you get older is that you make less stem cell down at that lower level. So my thought is that as you take off the dead cells, it would be lovely if you were producing new cells at the same time, in order to give you that glowing, young-looking skin. Right. And I actually was against some of the, different polishers that came out in the beginning that were pretty rough and abrasive because they would take off all the dead skin cells, but I would see over a couple of years my friend's skin beginning to thin, as it does often in aging, and so they weren't reproducing, at the same level that they were shedding. Right. And so the cannabinoids help with that messaging system and the stimulation of stem cell activity there in order to make sure that you're repairing and reproducing, in accordance with what you're taking off, what you should be taking off.
Exactly. So another great ingredient, and we'll talk about that more because I've talked about anti-aging, exfoliation. So we will talk about those dead skin cells and getting rid of those. And now moving on to the sea buckthorn.
Okay. Yes. Is there a specific question?
Well, I guess I don't think there's a lot of awareness about this particular ingredient. So again, kind of tying in the benefits.
Okay. So I spoke very briefly there about omega-369. Omega-7 is the thing that sea buckthorn oil is known for. So sea buckthorn grows on a shrub that's kind of a gray-green, like most of what grows here in the desert. It can take the wind. It can go up to 110 degrees Fahrenheit and down below zero. It was grown originally in China, northern China, like almost near the Russian border and in areas like that. And the berries, they're grown in Europe also, actually, in Finland and other places. And the berries are pressed in, like, Germany. You can buy, I've forgotten what it's called now. It's not called sea buckthorn juice. What are they calling it over there? I have to look that up for you. Yeah. But you can buy it like orange juice and actually drink it, from the market in the morning. And they're adding a little bit of sugar to it. But, I mean, they understand the benefit of the omega-7, which is the truly anti-aging oil and the one that's so low in our diet. So sea buckthorn's used around the world for everything. We started growing it because it grew in these conditions very well in an alkaline soil that we have here and so on. And so we had our own source. And I think year 3, the organic wholesale supply of sea buckthorn sold out in the spring before the season even happened. And so it was a great thing that we actually had started our own plants and so on because we saw that this is the way it's going to go. It's getting extremely popular. You can actually buy sea buckthorn oil in powdered capsule form in the health food stores, and so they were taking up the source. And on our Max+Jane Instagram, we had that cute picture sent to us recently from San Francisco of some elixir, or some wonderful beverage, alcoholic beverage with sea buckthorn in it as the base. So that's kind of hilarious.
Right.
It has an orange color, the berry, so the oil has an orange color. And in our skin nutrient, which was our first product, we put everything in it that we wanted for anti-aging. So sea buckthorn's in there. It gives a golden glow on the face if somebody's doing like bridal photography or something. But the color completely absorbs in 20 seconds to 2 minutes on the sea buckthorn oil, unless the person's had chemo. So chemo actually and radiation, some change happens in lipid membranes, and it takes those people longer for the color to disappear. Which is very interesting. It's a small number of people, but important to know. Yeah.
Interesting ingredients. So wow, I've learned a lot just now, learning a little bit more about sea buckthorn. So thank you, Susan.
Thank you very, very much.